I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to a special council meeting for budget priority setting on November 7th, 2019. And have we met all the legislative requirements for this meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
And will you please call roll?
Ms. Niedergang?
Present.
Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Ms. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Quinn?
Here.
Ms. Fraga?
Here.
Mr. Williamson will be arriving shortly. Mayor Lambert?
Here. And now please join me in the
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'd like to start by just welcoming Michelle from Lambros and congratulate you on the election victory on Tuesday. And you're the only member of the public at this point. Do you have any comments that are not on the agenda?
I don't.
Okay, all right.
Do you have a copy of this?
I do.
Yeah. All right, so I'd like to close public comment and then we'll move on to the presentations and then we'll start with Bob Gregory and the fire department.
Okay, so the first thing I'll talk about is the Fire Safety Bureau and housing. So, I mean, it's a goal every year to meet our inspection goals of doing all like hazard uses. We're on target to finish them this year and it'll be a goal again next year. So everybody's doing a good job there keeping up on the inspection, keeping us safe.
Sir, can I just ask,
Sure.
I don't know what life hazard is.
Oh, life hazard use is, so the state breaks down buildings into non-life hazard uses and life hazard use. So life hazard use, for example, would be this building because it has assembly spaces, like a common room like this, the courtroom. So the hotel, Nassau Edge, would be a life hazard use, dormitory, students sleeping. And an example of the non-life hazard use is something like one of the small businesses, the barber shop, out in this court now. Yep. So the other thing I always put in here too is I know me and Nick have been working together, DOC, which I'll talk about, but also field command unit. So I still, you know, it goes hand in hand, our emergency operations center and then having a unit that we put in the field where we can utilize radios, maps, computers, and whoever's incident it is can use the apparatus for meetings and whatever else they need to do. And then I'll go into our EOP project and then talk about sustainability. So we're probably 2 years ago, year and a half ago, we developed a project to upgrade the Emergency Operations Center, which is Nick's ready room. And so we had to put some things on hold. We wanted to go kind of a different way with all the electronics. So now with Terrence, who's been doing a great job and big help, we're ready to move that project forward. So a resolution will be coming before council. And that'll go from 2019 probably to 2020 to get that up to date. And that's just putting some seating in there that works for an EOC, for training, for meetings. We'll have a projector, some TVs, and it'll be up to date where me and Nick can walk in and plug phones in, computers in, it'll be ready to run. We don't need IT to come in and do all the setup that they haven't done in the past. So it's just making the process a lot smoother.
Haven't we approved
Yes.
by resolution
We did.
these upgrades before, so we're doing another resolution?
Well,
No, actually, we approved the bond ordinance to pay for the
Right.
upgrades. We haven't done the resolution authorizing it.
Okay.
With the bond ordinance, I think it comes to council sometimes 3 times for like, there's like multiple cycles of the,
Okay. So Terrence is working on some final numbers. And I will continue into 2020 working with sustainability. So that's been a real positive experience for me, good learning experience. But by the end of January, we'll have the Pew grant, we'll have all our items finished. finished, and the big item for us is we developed a database to capture our vulnerable population, but we're not calling that as Princeton Prepares, because we want to cast a wider net for anybody who has, a child with asthma, somebody that just takes blood pressure medication to, be on there. And we're also partnering with the police. They've revamped their Blue Angel program, and that's where a person can have a key box on their house or apartment, so nobody has to break windows or doors. So if there's a problem, the police, fire, and EMS can get in quickly. So,
Can I ask a question about that?
sure.
Do you have, because I just happened to get a new, keypad type lock that doesn't use a key. Do you have a way to deal with that, or have you thought about that for that kind of a program? So I guess
Yeah, so there's
it seems easier because you just have to keep a number.
So there's two ways that we've dealt with that before. One is you can just put the code in the key in the box.
Oh, okay, that's a good.
That's
That's a
usually
low tech way.
Right,
Yeah.
easiest way to do it. And then we've put it in the CAD system before, but if you have it, if you decide to change your code,
Right.
just change it in box.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
So that's moving along, and I know they're going to be working on some new grant stuff, so we'll move forward with that. And then, of course, we're moving forward with the fire department. So Sunday we do our agility testing with our candidates. I'm happy to report everybody's doing real well with their practice sessions. Everybody's well under 5 minutes, so that's good, even me. After that, we have dates set for November 22nd, 24th, 25th, and 26th to do the interview process. And once we're done with the interview process, that last night we put time aside to make our decision, and then we'll do provisional offers, I think it is, until they pass the physicals, and hopefully they'll be on and going in January.
I think it'd be helpful for colleagues and future members
Sure.
of council to understand the state law that hires, that governs who we can hire, that we have to hire internal
Right,
candidates.
so the statute states that you have to give preference first shot to volunteers in the department. With the thought process behind it was they're good enough to volunteer, so they're good enough for you to hire. And where the preference comes in, it's number one, either a person who meets exempt status, and that's exempt status is being a member of the department for 7 years, and being an active member for 7 years through Princeton. The other piece of that is meeting the fire department's definition of active member, which our active members right now have to do their duty nights and training, and you actually have to be consistent as an active member for 2 years prior to us hiring. Then after that, if there's no one that meets those, or only a few people that meet those criteria, we can then go outside, which means volunteers first, and then if you don't have enough people apply for the positions, then you can open it up to the public.
Volunteers first, you mean the volunteers that don't qualify?
Right.
At that higher standard of 7 years or
Exactly.
2 years?
And when we say volunteers, we include the university
The
affiliates.
associate members, yep.
Yeah, associate members from the university. So my personal observation has been that this is also going to be a way to encourage volunteer participation, since potential volunteers know that this is their path to becoming a full-time firefighter in Princeton. So just because this process is going forward doesn't mean that we're turning our backs on volunteers. We would welcome volunteers.
Yeah, we've had an uptick in people joining the department, and it's twofold. We've had a couple of people join that are not interested in the job, and then there's obviously people who are going to join because they hope that one day, they'll have an opportunity to join. So.
Yeah, I had a follow-up question. So I know it may not seem like it's budget related, but I do understand that you're first looking into the department for the paid positions. And perhaps because of that, there may not be much diversity in the ones that are being considered. But I had a question about the current, the ones that are being recruited, whether we have diversity there.
There is actually some. I mean, a lot of our younger members, we have a pretty diverse group of younger people. Some are interested in going that way, others are not. They're college students who, study to be engineers. But we've talked actually about, I've actually talked about Melissa to give you some ideas on how to, when you're recruiting volunteers, get out to the different groups and make sure it's we hit everybody, kind of diversify our volunteer so we have, a diversity when we go to hire.
Yeah. And I know you came to the culture sharing night and also the look at the community building event, which I think it's great. But I also know it's been a challenge recruiting from diverse communities. And so I was wondering if there's any way we can, look for ways where we can do more of that, having a presence in events where we have an opportunity to recruit. But also if there's any way that we can provide incentives for those who volunteer. A meeting, I think it was last year, I said it in jest at first, but then the more I thought about it, I thought, why not? As far as whether it would be possible for our volunteers that we can provide a free parking ticket. Something that would be not just an incentive, but to recognize and appreciate the work that they do.
Yeah, we've actually gone through some of those discussions, and that would be probably a good discussion to have what we can do with that. Because actually currently we have emergency response stickers where members can park, and they don't have to put money in the meter. And the thought behind that was always that they're going to respond. But I mean, we could rethink that and just say, hey, thank you for volunteering. Even if you're in town doing something else.
Well, especially we're wanting, doing our best to recruit locally, and I know our residents understand and appreciate the value of being able to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's one of the things that when we did our study for the fire department, one of the issues, exactly what you're talking in terms of incentives, that are part of that plan that are still one of the goals that they're working on and that we'll continue to work on, setting up different incentives for the volunteers. So they've been working through that process. They've got an executive committee, member of the fire department that was involved. And there are some goals in there to talk about incentives that we'll continue to kind of go through.
Bob, I saw, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Please.
No, you go first.
I saw now retired Officer Navarez. I can't pronounce. I'm sorry.
That's
But
okay.
it was-
Advice.
At the library a couple weeks ago, and he offered to volunteer to recruit in the Latino community
Right.
if we needed language support.
Yeah, I've spoken to him about that already. So, but I need to meet. I think maybe with yourself, Melissa, and George, to just figure out a strategy. I don't think just me going knocking on doors.
And I would say,
But you and Jorge.
Yeah.
I would say when we're recruiting, it would be more than just the Latino community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this came up, I was gonna say, this came up at public safety, was that earlier this week?
Yes.
Yes.
It was just,
No, it was
first time
last
yesterday.
Yeah, or was it personnel?
Yeah.
But I think there's interest in, if it's helpful to have a group from either myself and Councilwoman Frauda and whoever else from council to help with just sort of the recruiting of the volunteers.
That would be great.
Yeah.
We do a lot of events, but that was my conversation with Melissa. We don't get into our Latino communities enough to promote, volunteer. We did a lot of other areas.
Right. And I think our biggest population actually by ethnicity is Asian. And so, right, and so I think it's sort of across the board,
Yeah.
just sort of getting the word out and, anyway, sorry, well, that's to be continued.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Yep.
I had a question, just as we move towards having paid firefighters, and we're gonna have people there, in the department all day, who, we understand why it's really important to have them there to make sure we have the coverage, but most of the time, it's like a waiting
Right.
situation. And this has to do with like another conversation we had at this meeting about just the amount, we're trying to go digital, and we have tons of material that we're hoping to get scanned, and I don't know if there's some sort of synergy that could be created there, where you have a scanning machine and like during downtime, some of the paid staff is working on getting, all of our old planning documents and other things, and it's the kind of project where you probably stop and drop everything and then not worry about leaving it, not when you're answering calls or something. So I don't know, we talked to Mr. Shield about it a little bit, but just like to keep, if there's a way to sort of keep options like that open as we're hiring, so we're not springing stuff on people when it becomes that door is closed.
And a broader question, I think that's connected, is are the firefighters unionized? And what kinds of restrictions?
Not yet, but they will. I mean, it will likely happen, and not yet. And one of the things, and I know that we put in is, other duties as assigned, and we've kind of thought about those things in terms of what are other duties that they can do. And it's important that we, what we're talking about now, that we do that early, and that will be part of an understanding that it's not just, and there may be other duties that they may have to do, that we do that early. It's a clear understanding. That's
Our
part of that.
committee came up with an actual, it's still a draft for that reason, that before we finalize it, we want to make sure we add everything that we want. There's certain house things that they'll do now.
Right.
And so, that's actually probably feasible, because like you said, just the alarm goes off, you stop what you're doing and go.
Yeah.
I just had a couple of other questions.
Sure.
Of the generator project that you're finishing up?
Yes.
Where is that, and who is the grant from?
So that grant came out of Hurricane Sandy, and it turned into a project.
So is it FEMA?
Yes, and so the generator's been over a year now. It's been installed at Monument. That was the new one. And then we had one mobile generator, and we were supposed to get two. And what had happened is, from long story short, they got the wrong one and had to go back. So now we've ordered the correct one, and we're waiting for the PO stuff to all happen. So we're on resolution ready. And once we get the PO back in, they'll get their check, and then I can send the final documents to the state. So they send us the rest of the grant. So that's where we're at.
I don't know if there are other grants that you're sort of have on your wish list for the future, but I know we've talked about the lock boxes at locations, and I know that FEMA actually does have a grant program for resiliency stuff that's not to fix damage, from a storm, but actually to prevent or to prepare for storms. So whoever's sort of working on that, I don't know if it's the police or public works or you, but I think it'd be great to keep in mind that we should be looking at grants for that as well.
And there are lock boxes.
These are like,
Work boxes.
yeah, work
Like
boxes
a River Road and Quaker
Oh,
Bridge, and
right, okay.
that's come up,
to keep
Yes.
equipment
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
at the places where we need to close roads.
Yeah.
They're-
And Nick and I and Christine have been working at that from Sustainable.
Is it, do you call that a job box or?
Yes,
A
job
box,
box.
yeah.
Like with a chainsaw in it or something for cutting down
Well,
trees and
even
stuff, or?
if
It's
you
more to
got
put like
cones
cones and
tape,
tape.
yeah,
Oh,
so you
cones
can-
and stuff,
we
yeah.
can just-
Yeah.
the schlep stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I wanted to go back to the Princeton Preparers, which I knew who came up with that title, but that's a great title. I love it because there's no stigma
Right.
implied, so, how would, somebody know if they were on there or if a vulnerable neighbor was on there? I mean, I wouldn't assume that I could look through the list, that would, seems that there are,
Right.
privacy and other
Yeah.
considerations, so, how do people who want to assist in this effort know? Do they just report people, and if it's a duplicate, it's a duplicate, or?
So you would actually have to go into the system and put it in. So if someone, I would think the best thing to do, like if I, knew Nick should be on that list, is talk to him and say, hey, here's a good thing for you to be on. So,
Okay.
emergency services know that you use oxygen or, you need help evacuating.
Is there
we
some-
also, we also did talk about it in relation to the buddy initiative.
Right.
And one of the questions on the intake form is,
Right.
is there somebody local? Or, that
After
you would
the
like to
family.
have an emergency contact after the family emergency
Right.
contact.
For a local person.
Right.
So the Buddy Initiative kind of intake form is.
No, it's the Princeton Prepares intake form.
Yeah, so it has that on that, so when we get it, we can see people that say, oh yeah, I would like somebody, and then we can,
And
go to the
how
next
are we
phase.
gathering the names to go on that list? Like, how are we identifying people? What's the mechanism by which we identify people to add to the list?
so right now it would just be a manual, because right now the list will come in and it'll go right into the police dispatch, so they have the information.
But the list come in from where?
I think, are you like using the Princeton Senior Research Center, like what's your outreach?
Oh,
plan?
right, so a number of them, there's Princeton, right, Senior Resource Center, we're definitely gonna go to 300, 310 Elm. That's not assisted living, it's just, and then other venues that come up, like, I know Christine's gonna be at the library, Saturday. So that's our plan, is to actually get out in the public with different events. And the library's been great too. We've done things here where we just get a room and promote, hey, here's what we're doing, Princeton Prepares, come and learn about it. So
I
that's
think
another-
there's also outreach to medical professionals.
Yes.
Like, they can sort of suggest to
Right.
patients if they're appropriate.
We've reached out to the hospital.
No, I don't know that we reached out to them yet. We're at the phase where it's developed and it's in, Christine and Access Princeton has it. And so now we're working on the mechanism to get it into police. But we can start collecting the data to have it in, so when they make that connection. So we're gonna learn as we go a little bit more with the people who say, hey, I'd like to have a local
So
contact,
this
how we
might
do that.
be something like the health department, right? Jeff, you meet regularly with the Connecticut Hospital?
Yeah.
That might be a great place to,
Yeah, we've done something similar when we were trying to get numbers for the clinic. We had the providers knowledgeable of the clinic here, so they could promote it. And Bob and I talked about that and how that would be a good spot to
It's a
start.
good document involved with us.
Yeah.
Dr. George.
I have one more non-related question. At the end of the operations, there's someone responsible for facilitating the safety committee, coordinating safety compliance, act as a safety representative for
Right.
Princeton. Can you just
So
talk
we
about that a
have,
little bit more? I'm not sure.
so, Mark's involved, Jeff's involved with that. That has to do with the joint insurance fund. And so we have a safety committee, which is pretty much the department heads,
So
Jackie.
PFAS, police,
Right.
and fire.
And so we bring police, fire, well, Dick's on it, and we'll bring PFARs or the fire chief in if we need to. If we have any type of major incident, we can ask him, but, or something on scene. But it's mostly municipal, and it's really employee safety besides responder safety. It covers the whole municipality.
What it is part of the joint insurance fund, it's part of like risk management piece. They'll review all of the accidents, make recommendations in terms of accidents, plan, safety, training programs. And it's all coordinated to get support from the JIF will also, they do things like they'll do the joint insurance fund. They have a safety coordinator. They'll go out and they'll do inspections on our properties, a number of our properties, for example, like playgrounds, and they'll do an inspection, make a list of, improvements we have to make based on safety regulations. That'll be reviewed by the committee, so that's some of the other things that they do, a lot of that type of things.
Yeah, we've made some recommendations, we look at accidents. One of the things based on accidents with DPW was having everybody got issued gloves, so it was, for certain jobs, you had to, let everybody to stop and think about it.
In fact, the closing down of Magnus Playground is based on just strong recommendation. Yeah, so what we're doing now is addressing that.
Both people and the municipality from, okay.
That's right.
Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I just had one other thing. I know Leticia and I at the league conference last year bumped into Nick, the inspector, the housing inspector, and at a event focused on Airbnb type uses, and he was really interested in getting some kind of inspection regime in place for those kinds of residences, even though ordinarily they wouldn't be. And I guess I'm raising it to make other council members aware of it, because I know the whole Airbnb question is something that we haven't had to address yet, but that we might need to, and this is one way to sort of bring it into the world, out of the shadows, right? And have it be formal requirements for safety and for paying hotel taxes and stuff like that. But is it something that just Nick is excited about, or do you think that's something that we should be considering for our priorities list for 2020 to move forward with that?
Right, so, the Airbnbs are a rental, like other rentals. The challenge is that they can be for a weekend, they can be for a week, they can be for overnight. So we've had discussions, and I know some of the other inspection bureaus in other towns have had discussions about the type of inspection. I always think it's good when you're renting a property like that to at least ensure that your detectors are working in place and things like that. So it's a bit complicated, but it's a joint effort between zoning and council and housing inspection and fire inspection on what level we would want to do.
And it was one of the things that I know we're looking to investigate in terms of the council level, and I think it's just a matter of council doing some investigation about a policy for affordable housing. And really, I think that's something we just need to look at and see whether it makes sense or not, because there are a lot of implications for actually doing it, and is it going to be worth the time and the effort? So I think that's something council should kind of address to see what are the implications.
Wait, are we talking about Airbnb?
Airbnb.
Yeah, I really, because some of us have done a little bit of investigating, and I think it just comes down to a decision on whether the council wants to do it or not. It's not really, there are no mysteries, and so a lot of other towns have done it. And so I think I think our committee could give a little bit of background information, but it's basically, do you want to regulate Airbnbs or not?
The inspections are a small piece.
If you regulate them,
bigger,
but the inspection is a big,
it's
one
an
of the
important
things.
piece,
Yeah.
but it's sort of once you decide to go forward.
But I don't think you can decide to inspect without regulating.
You have to have a formal
Okay,
process.
well, I think it'd probably be helpful to have a discussion about that. I know, I think the information we're gonna collect has already been collected, so
Yeah.
we should probably put it on in
Yeah.
November,
Yeah.
December, and have that.
Yeah, I was kind of
Work
waiting to
session.
see what happened in Jersey City. Is that where the big one was? Yeah.
Yes, right.
That was really good information.
Yeah.
Very
Cherryville
strong.
and Collingswood also have
Yeah.
This was a balance question.
So, did you have a last question?
Just to follow up on what you said, something in your last remark about affordable housing.
No.
I think it was just a slip of the tongue.
Did I say affordable housing?
Yeah,
You
it's
did.
it's only 8:30, so I think
Me
it's
too,
like
I thought I wasn't
Airbnb.
listening.
That was my last meeting yesterday, so I'm sorry.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Starts with the day. I was following you.
All right.
I have
Airbnb, short-term affordable.
I have another safety-related question. I know I think there are annual campaigns to remind folks to check their smoke detectors. But I also know that there are in many households that are low socioeconomic backgrounds, that very often even just replacing the battery, prevents someone from having a working smoke detector. Because I've walked into homes where the smoke detector is just hanging there because they don't want to hear the beeping. Is it possible, are there resources where we could, on an annual basis, yes,
Yes, so
what are batteries?
that's twofold. So we actually have that program. So Ron Delapo in Fire Safety has, he leads the charge with the fire safety education. And so he actually has a home inspection program. We'll go in and inspect your home for fire safety. And we also have a smoke detector. Where we have to be careful with it is because Princeton has a multitude of different type of houses. We kind of limit how we broadcast that, because you can't, like if you have an electric hardwired system, you can't go put battery operated in. But we do like to reach out to the older neighborhoods, because the older homes were built and they're battery operated. So we like to get into those, and we do it through the rental inspection too. Like if their detectors are out of date, no batteries, in the wrong space, Ron will actually work with them to relocate. And he has, we get them through the state. They're actually the new detectors, you don't have to worry about the battery. They have a 10-year battery, so you just put them on. And the battery's sealed, so you can't take it out.
But is that contingent, that for that to be available, is it contingent on inspection?
No, they can just call and say, hey, I have problems with my smoke detectors, and we'll go out and help the residents. Because most of the residents, if it's their home, there's no, the fire code doesn't cover that, but we're happy to help them with their smoke detectors.
And I only, I would like to point out that there are some households where it may not be a legal rental, or it may be in violation of fire code, so they're not going to invite for that to have that inspection. But at times when there's multiple families living, that's where it's most needed, that we ensure that it's safe.
Well, I mean, our first, if we get a call to help with that, our first priority is making sure that people are safe. And everything after that, don't worry about them, because even when we go in, if we see space heaters, electric cords, we'll rerun things and talk about power strips and stuff like that to try to make it safer for the individuals. So, our first priority is really, we don't want anybody to get hurt, we don't want fires.
Mr. Williams.
Okay.
No, go ahead. I was going to try to close this conversation, so
All right,
go ahead.
no, put a pin in it.
Okay, well, I was going to say for 2020, for the big things coming in front of council, it's the payment for the improvements to the EOC, and then the increase in staffing. Is there anything else that we should just?
The only other thing we're doing that's going to increase is we're redoing the emergency action operations plan. And we're actually, the consultant that is working with us on the flood annex and the climate, she's going to take on that project. And I think it was like maybe $4,000 or $5,000 that she's gave an estimate. But the reason we're doing it is we're putting it in FEMA's new format. FEMA has a new format for how they want it, and the state police have adopted it, how they want the emergency operations plan written, and the annex is written. It's actually a good thing because it makes it more usable instead of all this boilerplate, language that's usually in those types of plans.
Okay, great.
So that would be, and I would say too, if anybody, if the residents have an issue, we're happy to go out and help with smoke detectors, and the other fire safety issues, because that's important, especially with the winter time coming.
Thank you very much.
So just not to be rude, I'm probably gonna
Yeah,
drive around now.
you're totally pretty good job.
Scoop up Mr. Frida downstairs because we have a meeting, so.
Right, thanks, Bob.
Well, what I would do is highlight some of the major issues facing the department in the next year, and budget issues, and then kind of that'll lead us into a discussion of some more of the finer points that I have listed. We are probably entering the biggest change in the department since consolidation over the next 2 years. So we are at a point where we could lose 90% of our supervisory staff in the next year and a half to retirement. That's a huge, huge, huge threat. And then when you get outside of 2 years, it goes into the command staff. So within 5 years, the supervisory structure of the department could change dramatically, and the department will be extremely young in years in experience. So I've been looking at that really very, very seriously and closely, because you have to start planning now. You never can determine exactly when somebody's going to retire. So some people are know what the future holds and when they're going to retire, and others aren't quite sure. So some you can plan for, and some happen very quickly. So you have to have some type of strategy in place to prepare for some of the unknowns. One of the ways to do that, which we are addressing now, so to give you the structure so everybody understands, I'm talking about right now the corporal position and the sergeant's position. So on a patrol squad we have 4 patrol squads that rotate, that are the officers you see on the street. The supervisory rank of those squads include a corporal, who's below sergeant, and a sergeant. And one of the things that we did during consolidation was the former township police department had corporals, the former borough police department did not. We decided collectively that corporal position was super important because it formalized accountability, supervisory accountability when the sergeant was not working. And that's a great risk mitigation factor for litigation, that when you just put an officer in charge and the sergeant's off, and you say, hey, you're in charge today, and something happens, number one thing that we looked at is the training, formal authority, supervision experience, right? So the corporal gave us that layer. So what we had done with the corporal and sergeant on the patrol squad is they can never have off together unless there's an emergency and someone's ill, and which time we replace them with another supervisor. So when the sergeant's off, the corporal's there. And when the corporal's off, the sergeant's there. So they're a supervisory candidate flow. We could lose in the next year and a half to 2 years everybody in both those ranks except for 2. So we have 7 sergeants and 4 corporals. Huge turnover. So one of the ways that we are addressing it is through starting promotional processes, the testing, so you establish a list. We've done that for sergeant because we already have no vacancy with Sergeant Woman's retirement. When that list is established, you can then look at who your prospective candidates are going to be and start the training and mentoring pieces of that. The sergeant and corporal ranks, I feel, is probably the most important supervisory position in the department because they are making the calls, the minute-to-minute judgment calls, and they really, they're running the department in off hours, of the business hours, and those decisions are the ones that are ultimately the high-risk decisions. They're making the riskiest decisions. I usually have time to research and think, decide on things. They have to decide at a moment's notice. So training for them is of utmost importance. So one of the things that we're going to have to do over the next, starting now through 2020, is starting it's going to put more pressure on the command staff. We're going to have to be a little bit more hands-on with training, accountability measures, things, because we're going to have to be supervisors and we're going to have to train and mentor them. So there's going to be I'm looking at more of a formal process to actually do that. kind of on-the-job training. We do have a process now, but I have to look at it a little bit more seriously. When it's just one, you could have 3, 4 new people all at once, and it's really a big risk. So we're looking at that very formally. With that, I'll just jump around a little bit. So that's a big one. But with that comes some opportunities. So I would suggest that we look at the opportunities for civilian aviation, certain tasks that are now falling under officers. For instance, I just give you the kind of model for this would be the time to look at it. We could, our press information officer is a sergeant at the State Police Bureau. That person is on social media. At the same time, we spend a huge amount of resources in the Detective Bureau on background investigations. Alcohol license, solicitors, firearms, prospective employees, prospective employees for dispatch. There's a lot of work. So in my mind, that's something to consider, that you aggregate some of these functions that currently fall to a police officer, look at how civilization lessen the impact of the budget. And I think it's a discussion that should be had at least in the upcoming, maybe next year or so. So again, I put update protocols. A lot of this stuff isn't internal, but we have a lot of accountability meetings, if you will. We have weekly staff meetings. We have a risk management committee that looks at high-risk things, patterns of the department and such. Those things are going to have to be internally for us very closely monitored in the next couple of years. So that's a really big thing that I want to stress. On this kind of planning thought is in 2013, we undertook a forward plan. Really, I think, a pivotal key to our success. We were in a huge change. Everything was new. And that plan really allowed us to kind of come together, coalesce around these objectives and goals that our community, our governing body, that everybody had input on, and we were all kind of said, okay, this is what the community expects from us, this is what we're going to work towards. I think we finished that plan in 18, that was the last year, but I think it might be time to look at that again. I think with all this change coming up, it might be a good idea to formalize another strategic plan that the community is involved in, and all the stakeholders are involved in, so that our new supervisors, and don't forget we have a lot of new officers too, so that everybody's on the same page. They can hear me say it, and we can all talk about it, but sometimes until it's in a plan that they have and can look at, it just puts everybody on the same page. Last time we did that with a consultant, I don't know if there's the consultant formalized or did focus groups, did all the facilitation of the plan and did the actual work. We were all involved in it, but they did the work. So I have something to discuss maybe in public safety moving forward. That's something that we want to look at. Talking about accountability, one of the biggest things I think in 2020 definitely will be body cameras. So I've been talking about body cameras for a long time, and we did a really good thing, I think. We looked at them in 2014 when they were really there was a lot of movement nationally. And I think we made a good choice by not going to body cameras for one reason at that time, is that the technology has gone just skyrocketed in the last 5 years. It's so much better than it was 5 years ago. So we've been doing a lot of research. We're getting ready to test a couple of cameras, but the biggest piece of this, I think, that is important to us getting that is the Attorney General recently put out not a directive, but an advisement, and our county prosecutor used that to write to all the police departments. What has happened is that the Attorney General said that if there's a use of force incident that results in serious bodily injury or death, use of force of an officer on a civilian, and there is no body camera footage, it's an automatic presentation to a grand jury. So that's pretty telling as to where it's going. And that's a pretty stressful thing to put our officers under. And, you know, I think that it's a transparency issue, right? So the assumption is there isn't body camera footage, or there isn't camera footage. You know, it's not that, I don't want to use the word trust, but the Attorney General is not going to make that determination that they do now. They're not going to take that on. If there is body camera footage and the use of force is deemed to be proper by the Attorney General, it will be clear at that point. So what I think the Attorney General is saying, and the prosecutor's office kind of did say this to us, we're not telling you to get the cameras, but you get the cameras. Kind of
Strong suggestion.
Yeah. For the safety of everyone. And I think, you know, we've spoken about this at public safety. I have a vision for how this should be done, or how I kind of wanted it to be done. And I wanted to have a lot of conversations about it first, public presentations and questions and answers, and listen to all the stakeholders that are involved. Maybe have some focus groups with, you know, community members and council members and the schools, medical facilities maybe that might have concerns about it in town. Have these different concerns all incorporated into our policies and procedures as they're formulated. But I think I'm pretty confident that the time is at hand that we're going to have to do this in the incoming year. I've done a lot of research and had some meetings on the pricing of these things, and the cost is the reoccurrence of the cost every year for the storage. That's the big storage of the data.
How long do you to?
Well, it all kind of depends on what is captured. So routine footage is like 90 days. It can be purged every 90 days. But there are some things that have to be held forever. They get reduced to probably a hard copy and held. But it's expensive. But there are some interesting pricing options that these companies are doing now, so that you're not going to have to come out with this huge amount of money up front, but it does recur here. So I think it's kind of more affordable in the ways that I'm looking at it than it has been in the past. Not that huge amount of money up front, but it's definitely a budget impact every year, either way. Yes.
Look, do you want to finish and then we'll?
Oh, I was going to ask about the body camera, but
Okay, then no, go ahead.
but I can wait. Has the insurance company, do they also back this up with the body camera? The GIF or
I don't know. It's a good question. You know that?
You mean Mike Jim pay for it?
no?
Like
Do the insurance companies back up the assertion that it covers your liability better? That you're less likely to be found liable in court if you use body cameras all the time? Because one thing I was wondering about is it probably makes it worse if the body camera malfunctions or it's turned off when it wasn't supposed to be. So I was just curious.
That's interesting. I don't know. I'll have to look into that though. And that is a good point, by the way. These are some of the things I wanted to have conversations about publicly. Is the Attorney General's guideline on body camera usage is online, so anybody can see it. But it's very intricate, and there's a lot of times where the officers actually required to turn it off. I have a lot of concerns about that. I understand why it's there. It's the directive. It has to be that way. It's not a you may, it's a you shall use it this way. So, but I do have concerns about it, and I think to be, upfront and transparent with the public, so everybody's aware of it, that these instances may not be captured on body camera because you have to turn them off.
So if you go to a hospital, for
Exactly.
example.
Schools are very different. You can first enter, I believe. I think I'm correct in saying this. They can't be on if you're just going into a school to, whatever the case may be. They can't be on until something occurs. You have to activate. So then it's on the officer, in a crisis situation, if he or she forgets to activate it, it's a problem. It may be a total accident.
So I was recalling, I think you mentioned that at our meeting that if there's technology where if an officer were to
Yes.
holster his.
Yes, that's a great point. So there is all this new technology now where, a couple things, as you just mentioned. One is when your weapon is unholstered, your camera will go off automatically, and every officer within this, I forget what the radius is, it'll remotely activate theirs as well, automatically off your sensor. That's also, I think, with random activation. So if we're all, we put the body cameras in here, and I hit mine, everyone goes on. So, because a lot of the, especially in, use of force situations, it's all these different vantage points to be critical to determining whether it was proper or not. Same with vehicles. So they're also used with car cameras. They activate automatically as well. So when one goes on, everybody within the vicinity. So there's a lot of these safety things that weren't there before, but there's still, I could see questions about why someone did or didn't have a camera on for a particular incident. I think that's just great to discuss up front and say, here's our policy, hand it out, and everybody become familiar with it and ask questions before we implement it. That's kind of my plan, was to start the research, test them out, have these conversations during the first part of next year, and then somewhere through the middle of next year, talk about how we want to proceed.
I just, in terms of the funding for it, I don't know if you've talked to Mark about it yet, but CFAC is often looking at whether a capital expense upfront, makes more sense than something that's spread out over time as an operational expense. So it may look better for
To me,
you,
yeah,
but
yeah.
Mark might have a different opinion, or
Understood,
CFAC
totally.
might have a different opinion, so.
You can use all that help and look at that for sure.
Chief, we talked of public safety, and it's true that we're the only department in Mercer County that doesn't have body cams?
Yes, everybody, yes, Trenton has them too. I'm just going through my 99.9, Pennington Borough maybe does not. I'm not sure if they do or not. Everybody else does.
Okay. And surrounding South Brunswick, Montgomery?
Yes. Yes. Montgomery I can't speak to. I know South Brunswick does that.
Thanks.
Sure.
And along with body cameras, what about dashboard cameras?
Right, so we currently have, we've had them actually since 1999. We were one of the first Princeton Township and Borough to have them in the vehicles. They will, comes as a package, they will require updating because they have to be synced. Because to have ones that we have now that are old, and the body cameras, they won't work together, it's going to cause a lot of problem from an evidence standpoint especially. But they're all included in these packages that they offer, so I know we're paying for it, but that's an issue that I think is important too.
And I knew it existed because, of course, there was the incident with the
Yes.
Princeton University professor. And I mean, the interesting thing about them is that it's great for citizen protection because you can see what's actually happening, and then it'll make sure that the officer's doing what the officer's supposed to do. And on the officer side, it's also protecting the officer in case the officer's falsely accused of something, so we can get a glimpse into what actually happened.
There is one of my concerns with footage in general was the redaction, because the incident that you spoke about with the car cameras, we had to spend days redacting, trying to get the video redacted so that it could be released. The new technology, literally less than 5 minutes you can send it action. It's all included. It's that, it's press a couple things, you cover up what you need to cover up or take out. Audio has to be redacted as well. I had a presentation on it, it was literally that way. So I'm not as concerned. I thought we would need, record staff to be doing this all day. It's not going to be that labor intensive as I thought, which is good. And then money savings, personnel wise.
Yeah, just a follow up on the two things on the body cameras. That, if we're one of the only places in the county that does it, then I don't know, I mean, to Councilwoman Kermiller's point, it may we may be at a point where, well, you don't have body cameras, and that in itself is kind of automatically, like, makes us guilty, because we haven't taken the steps that every other municipality has taken. So it may be that the ship has simply sailed on this, and we can no longer argue about should we go down this route. It's just a matter of, how we go down the route. But first of all, thank you for the presentation, and I really especially appreciate you in terms of the staff and thinking about ways for the municipality to save money. And this is not the first time this has come up, and you're very proactive about that, and I really appreciate that. So one follow-up question on the body cameras, which is how, and I'm sure this is just part of the protocol, but how do you see training for your police officers changing as you move towards that? I mean, they already have the dash cams. Will there be any difference, or this is kind of?
Yeah, so I'm learning that there's a big training component involved. So just to kind of break it down, there'll be a training component on the technology course. But I think, so I should preface by saying our officers are literally 100% to the person in favor of body cameras. They want them, but I'm learning that there's a lot of training in terms of like even verbiage when you're acting with a citizen about, it's in the policy that telling them that you're being recorded or that may I turn my camera, you ask the person, do you want the camera on, in certain situations, can I turn it off? And so there's a lot of, I think there's room for a lot of mistakes at the beginning because there is a huge training component just with the policy alone. So with regard to, just the use of the camera, there's a lot of training. I don't know, other than that, I think it's going to be, they're going to like them, and it's not going to really change the way we do business at all.
The younger officers in the academy have done any training already with body cameras, or that's not part of it? So everybody will be new to this? Everybody's
going to be new to it. To the extent that their usage. I think that's really the only thing. I think otherwise it's not going to change things much. But I think it's going to be received overwhelmingly positive.
Thank you. I'm going to echo what Steve being said about just sort of thoughtfulness of the staffing. I know you've been talking about the civilianization and potential for that for a really long time, and I don't know if like every chief would come to the council with that, so we're really appreciative of that, and also with the body cameras. And I mean, in some ways, it's like, it feels a little weird to be the final adopter for this, but I agree with you that I think it was, like looking back, probably a smart choice, because I think with the, the community policing, of which the department has done such like an amazing effort towards, it's like, this can work together with that, but also against it in some ways, and I think just being really careful, and now we can take advantage of some of the better technologies.
And I think we would have probably been spending money again, I think, so we would have made a purchase, and we'd probably be making another investment to upgrade, so I think it works out.
You're going to have to do that. You need a new phone every, whatever.
I think that we're all concerned and want to support you with the retirements that you've talked about, and I think that's just going to be a continuing conversation with public safety.
Yes.
I know when we consolidated, there were, we were worried about losing certain senior people, and we wanted to work things out to smooth out those transitions, so you're not losing 5 people at once or whatever it is. And so, I think this is coming. I mean, I don't know if all council sort of on board with this or not, but I do think we want to make sure that you have the support you need, and that you don't feel like you're without key people in key positions with the right training. So anything we can do to help with smoothing out that transition, I think that there's.
Can I have a related question, which is, do you envision needing to go outside the department to do hires at all for senior level people?
So promotions have to come from within by statute.
Really?
Yeah, so all promotions have to come in the state of New Jersey from within the police department. The only well, there's no exception, I guess, other than directors. Directors are civilian authorities that can be brought in from the outside, but once in the state of New Jersey, which is, I think, might be one of the only states nationally, I'm not positive about that part, but once you get hired as a patrol officer, you have to promote from that rank within the department, all the way up. Yeah, so, and I think we're in a position where we've been looking at it, and we're cognizant of it, and I think we're not like in a position where everybody's gonna walk out the door at the exact same time. But the fact that we're just talking about it, planning, with that, I should have brought this one, that with that, which is unbelievable for you to say, as these retirements happen, we have to look at recruiting. And that's a huge undertaking. And that's like when I say recruiting, not hiring, but recruiting, starting the outreach.
Well, just a quick question, from a municipal cost perspective, are financial incentives one of the tools that may have to be used to keep officers on?
I'm sure it's always helpful. I'm not going to say that that's certainly not.
We're in the middle of negotiations.
I really, as I've learned, as I get older, it's about life planning. Like the officers really look at like what their significant other is doing and where their children are in life, and how long they've been on the department. Some stay for people have stayed for 35 and 40 years. And others leave at 20, others leave at 20. So it's really, I think it's a real personal decision for most, more than even, it's financial, there's financial implications to it, but I think it's more that life type of where they're at and what their kind of energy is for the job at this point.
Or do we have any situations where officers have retired, maybe for a year or two, and we can bring them back for a short term? You do those recalls with judges all the time.
I think by law, once they call hitting the button, once the button's hit, it's a done deal. We always laugh because they say, did you ever hear anybody come back and say they wish they ever retired? I guess not, so I haven't. So I think most people, when they do it, they're ready. I've never heard anybody say, oh gosh, I wish I wasn't.
You say with judges all the time. They call it recall.
Yeah,
so they're retired, but yet they're practically, they're still on the bench.
Once
You're like, okay, how does that
once
work?
the pension is acquired,
Right.
they can never.
Just a comment, now knowing that promotions have to come from within the department, I really appreciate the energy and care you took in recruiting the last class of recruits, and realize how important that would be if we're talking about doing it again. Find people that can fill your higher,
When you invest in them, you invest, I say you as the governing body of the town, invest in them for now 30 years. This is a 30-year retirement now, as opposed to 25. Pensions change. It's 30 for full. So you're making an investment in future leaders. Well, that's a lot.
and limiting your choices
And limiting your
for your
yes.
future leaders.
That's a big thing too, and we've talked about public safety, about promotions, about diversity. I just want to bring that last point up, is that when you talk about diversity in your supervisors and senior leadership, it has to start with recruitment, because you have to promote from within. So when you're looking at diversity in the supervisory ranks, you're looking a minimum of 5 years down the road, because you have to have 5 years on to get promoted. So that's why it's so important at the recruiting stage, because you can't be diversified in your leadership unless you hire diverse candidates. And you're not that you're stuck with it, but you are, because that's where you promote from. So who you've hired and the diversity you have in the junior ranks is the diversity you will have in your senior ranks 5 years and on.
Thank you. I just had a quick question about mental health, because I know just anecdotally from reading that it's a very hard career in many ways, and I wonder what your assessment is, if I know you're not a mental health professional, kind of the mental health of the department, and I know there are resources for officers if needed, but if you could just talk a little bit.
That's the number one, all the conferences I've been attending, that's the number one issue facing law enforcement. The rate of suicide amongst police officers is exponentially larger than the general public. It's in addiction, depression, anxiety, all the symptoms of stress. The Attorney General, which is a great thing, just instituted a resiliency program. And we just had 3 officers trained as resiliency officers. We have, that's somebody you can go to, or they can proactively go to speak with and get help, and not have a stigma attached or, job. The problem with the whole mental health issue, we've talked about this in public safety as it relates to police officers, is, it's not just stigma. Stigma is a big thing. I think we've gotten better at stigma, but there's job implications. So if you ask for help, it is what it is. It could jeopardize your job, and people look at it that way. So we're looking nationally at ways to deal with that issue. That, since somebody doesn't look at it while I'm suffering, and I ask the chief for help, that he or she's going to suspend me, and I can get fired. So we're dealing with those things. One thing we do that I've done to decrease the stigma around it, and I've been doing this since day one, is we have a critical incident. Critical incident could be, there's lots of them, but it could be a really bad medical call where somebody's deceased, or children especially, if it's traumatic. And we, or I, order everyone to be mandatory. That way, there's no stigma. It's the boss is making you do it, and I don't really want to go or need to go, but since he's told me I have to go, I'm going to go. And that seems to work. And we have a culture, I think, internally that are really, they're good at that. And they understand that it's healthy, just like you take care of your body, you take care of your mind. And I think it's we're kind of progressive with it. I feel that way. But it's a major, I'm glad you brought that up. It's a huge issue.
I have just some quick follow-ups, and thank you, Dee, for asking one of them, because that was one. I knew you had reported about the AG directive at one of our meetings, so I'm glad that something's following up on that. But the other ones were, and these are 2 things that I know you and I have talked about in the past, but I just wanted to follow up to see what can we do. One, we talked about my concern about the alcohol sale to minors underage, and I know you said that you have younger looking officers doing
Periodically, you do that, yes.
but I still, on a regular basis, at our grocery store, I have observed where, to me, are questionable, not just the sales, but the individual bringing up the sale, including the most recent one where I observed, it was apparent to me that the cashier that looked very young was selling to a group of students that appeared to know each other. But if it's not automatic, where like at Wegmans, where they automatically, everyone, even me, they will ask for ID. And if it's not being done, and I don't know if it's staff time or how can we ensure that's being done?
So the automatic ID is not law. We recommend it. So we can talk to them again, to the management. We also do our yearly inspections where we look at the employee list. We inspect the facility. Our detectives do those backgrounds and the inspections. So I'll put them up. I'll talk to you offline about it again, and we'll bring that up in the inspection with the employee list to look at who they're allowing to serve.
But if it's not just who they're allowing, but if it's not mandatory and I don't know.
Well, mandatory ID checks for 100% check is not mandatory,
Right.
but if there's a likelihood or suspicion that the person's underage,
Right.
or
Because I think at Wegmans, they can't even ring up the sale unless they
without the license number.
of alcohol unless they have the number of it. And then the other one, just really quick, we have talked about this as well, is which I feel are barriers to both employment and housing, is when somebody has a record that could be expunged, but because the individual either is not aware that it's expungible or doesn't have the resources. Is there a program that we could implement?
I actually forwarded a program to Human Services, and I gotta follow up and see, there's lots of legal aid type of presentations out there, and we could probably get somebody the police department can't really conduct it, but we can facilitate it. And I would think like maybe a attorney, that local attorney that put that on and explain.
It's not, Princeton regularly has those workshops.
Yeah.
And I know when you and I talked about whether there were any violations, I know it would be policy and that could be automatically expunged. You said the Attorney General is.
There's a state law
Yes.
regarding expungement,
Right.
yeah, and it's a statute.
But I know other states have done it, if it's something that we can advocate for. But I do know that, especially now with, we're building more affordable housing, very often individuals who, by income, they qualify. But then there's something in the record and they're.
A lot of those, I'd say, more judiciary-related issues than the police themselves. Yeah, because of like the Mercer County courthouse in Trenton, they have workshops on that. Yeah, so as the chief is suggesting, I think there's more issues, really more for the lawyers than from the police side. Yeah, because you have issues like drug court, where you have some automatic expungements and things like that.
Maybe it's something where Human Services and Affordable Housing Board can get together
Right.
and see where the issues are, and maybe it makes sense more
Yes.
from those groups.
Right.
But also, if it's possible to have those resources on your website. like
Sure.
what-
That's no problem at all.
Did you have a question, Jane? Oh,
Oh,
David,
right.
Wayne.
Yeah, of course, a lot of citizens in the entire county, particularly here in Princeton, were concerned about the sheriff's department purchasing a new armored vehicle.
Right.
And since the freeholders voted to purchase it, I know part two are citizens getting concerned about policies in which it would be used. I'm just wondering if Princeton Police are weighing in on that issue at all.
So that's a legitimate question. So we have a protocol in which when there's a critical incident, I'll use the Panera incident, when we need a more specialized equipment and personnel. So right now, our protocols are our first, and this is by department, all departments may be different. Our first call is to New Jersey State Police Teams Unit. When there's a need for a tactical team or specialized equipment. They also have a vehicle like that. So I can tell you that if we were to call the Sheriff's Department, I'm saying hypothetically now, of course, we call the State Police or the Sheriff's Department for a barricaded suspect situation. They're going to come with that. They're going to come and have tactical control of the incident. We have overall command of the overall incident, but when we request specialized, if we request bomb disposal or aviation units or tactical unit, they'll come with their equipment and have command over that specialized unit. So they'll come and say, this is what we're bringing with us, this is what we recommend to do, and then we'll make a decision on whether we'll authorize that or not. So it's kind of on, I'm just kind of getting through this hypothetically in my mind. If there could be a situation where that occurs, I can't say that there wouldn't be. Because if we called them and said, we need help, God forbid, there's a person shooting here, they're going to come down. So maybe we need to speak, talk more about it at our level, see what expectations are and, what the feelings are from the governing body and what we, so everybody's at least, I don't know if comfortable is the word, but understanding about what our protocols are and how we cooperate. I actually had that, you'll see in my presentation, one of the things I stress is we need these, not just tactical, but all types of resources, right? That bigger federal, state, agencies have, so I've really worked hard at those relationships and giving what we can give to them to get what we can get in resources when we need them. And I think we're at a point where we have really great relationships, we can get a lot of help from a lot of different agencies, but that's a great concern because we won't necessarily have control over that type of thing.
They're gonna
So-
wanna use it, so
So
say
once,
spend
once,
the
once
money
you
on it,
say
they're gonna
go,
wanna deploy it.
the big decision for you is
Yeah.
to say go or not, because once you say go, it's to a degree out of our hands in that
Yeah,
particular scope,
so they
right?
have their operational protocol,
Right.
right, that they say if there's this situation, this is the equipment they use. So, you know, they're not gonna say to me, can we bring the, whatever, the Bearcat, they're not gonna say that. If it's in their operational protocol, that's how they respond to it. I'm speaking for them a little bit, I'm just telling you how I think how that usually works. The best incident recently I can use is Panera. We call, we have a barricaded suspect, we're out there for a while, we need to start negotiations, and our officers have been inside for a half hour negotiating, and we need to kind of work up, get them out, right, relief. Call the state police, they come with a whole host of resources, that being one of them.
What about when we had the white nationalist, white supremacist?
A little
Do
bit,
you think like
no,
that
so
would,
that's a
that
great-
that would,
that's
because
a
the
difference.
county came for that, right?
Yes, yeah, the county and, we also have that rapid response team now
Right.
that all the departments collaborate with. So that's a little different where we can actually sit down and plan around that, right? And say, you know, maybe they would have that for an emergency somewhere if you needed it, but it wouldn't be like parked out front of Palm Square. That would be one where we would have control. I'm thinking of
The price, right,
911 call, right.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, if I could make a suggestion, I know that there are a bunch of citizens who are advocating for a citizen involvement in developing the sheriff's department protocol for when that vehicle would be used and how it would be used. And in a way, you know, if they succeed at that and we're satisfied with the protocol, there may not be anything for you to do. But if we're not satisfied with the protocol, it might be something for Princeton Police Department to do, to develop guidelines for
Yeah.
when you might call the county or not.
Yes, and I have an outstanding relationship with the sheriff, and, you know, he's cognizant of, you know, a lot of the concerns about it, so I think it wouldn't be difficult for me to sit down and discuss that at all. I just want to be very open and honest about the fact that when you call an agency, and we've learned this a lot over the years, you know, you're asking for help, and they operate the way that they operate. And we kind of lose some of that home rule, if you will, over, I can't say, oh, you can't bring that. Yeah.
Quick follow-up to
Yeah.
that. The New Jersey State Police created, I believe it was last year, the Citizens Academy.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was just wondering if there's any ideas for us to have something similar.
Yeah, so we've talked about it for years. We have the Youth Academy. One thing that has held us back historically is just the personnel capacity to maintain it. We would have to pretty much assign, because the Youth Academy is like a week and it's over, so we assign personnel to it and it's 1 week. Citizen Academies, as I understand, a lot of the programs they go on like maybe once or twice a week for some of the ones I've seen. So.
What are they? Sorry.
Well, State Police defines it as the goal of the Citizens Academy is to inform a group of citizens who represent a cross-section of New Jersey about the responsibilities, capabilities, operations, and procedures of the New Jersey State Police.
So I had actually shared that I graduated from Citizens Academy Police community, and I had a huge binder that I shared with Sergeant Williams, which I hope is laying around somewhere, when he was looking into he was looking into implementing that here. And when I participated in it, it was, I believe it was once a week, 12-week program.
Right.
I don't understand what it is.
So,
I mean, what it's for.
So it's for one, is for citizens to learn from the officer's perspective, what they deal with on a day-to-day basis. We even did I remember once we were sitting in a classroom like this, and somebody came in with a gun that we didn't know what.
It was a drill.
It was a drill, but we weren't aware of it, and they came in with a gun and they left. And then they asked us,
Right.
describe
Right.
what did that person look like?
So it's kind of like a PR thing for the police department, is that what it is?
No, it's just
No,
citizens
no,
have
no,
a better
I-
knowledge. It well, it goes along with
I don't
my
understand.
comments and
Oh.
David's comments about the armored vehicle. The goal is to have citizens be informed about what the policies of the police are. If they have any concerns, they can bring it up, and so they can bring back what they've learned from the academy to their communities and
Right.
to help better police civilian
Yeah.
interaction.
One baby step to that, we're on Saturday, there's gonna be this Engage Princeton event at the Princeton Public Library. I mean, it's mainly around volunteering, but they're having some informational sessions, and I mean, it just seems like you have a lot going on with personnel, but maybe to piggyback on that, to do like a one-day thing, like just like, I don't know, like what you could condense into like a 2-hour
Yeah.
or something, and
Definitely.
then you guys have the ride-along
Yeah,
program
we have
too,
the
so.
ride-along program, and you know, we love, it's a huge, that type of engagement is a huge success for us, really. A lot of people walk away with just even a ride-along. They get to ask, you know, I had this happen to me one time, why did you do this? And then you get an explanation, you're like, oh, okay. So I think.
Yeah, that answers my question.
That's more of kind of what it is, like having, when you go
It's
to.
it's a relations program.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's something we really could, you know, probably do. It's a matter of coming up with a curriculum and dedicating a couple, my vision would be to probably rotate people through from different bureaus and teach every week. So this is something we should probably really look at doing.
Find that binder, I had a lot of good information.
Okay, are there any other final questions for the chief? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure, thank you.
Next one we have is administration, and I'll talk about that briefly, just to give a quick overview so we understand what the administration also encompasses. We already talked about IT, which is part of administration. In addition to IT, there is Access to Princeton, and they provide the non-emergency calls, receive all the non-emergency calls, directing the calls, manage C-clicks. And one of the things they also do is the website and seamless docs. And that's one of the things that we've seen this department really be I'm gonna call it like a force multiplier. They've really been able to support a lot of our departments in doing both external seamless documents, but also helping productivity by providing internal documents. For example, our HR documents are now online to do posting of jobs, and it really just speeds up the process. That's been very successful. In addition, Access Princeton also assists the departments in putting together anything on their webpage. In addition to that, we do all of the other duties assigned to kind of the administrator's office, which includes coordinating the work of all of the departments, all of our personnel issues, developing personnel policies, preparation of the annual budget and capital budget, and also just supporting all of the activities of the municipal council in terms of their goals. In 2019, I'll just talk about some of the goals and things that we're working on. One being the municipal website. This is a goal that will start in 19 and go into 20. We revamped the website. We're in contract with the website. We're at kind of the midpoint of that contract. So we should be looking now at kind of the refresh of the website. So we'll begin to start looking at that process. In addition to that, we've been working with the PCTV contract, which has dragged on. We'll continue to work through that process until the end of that process. We're also working with the Friends of Parent Woods and that lease contract. We believe that is finished. The only thing holding up that contract at this point is some insurance issues that the Friends have to identify, some insurance policies. We're waiting on those. Hopefully that should be before council in December, the first meeting in December. We also do coordination for the affordable housing litigation. And there's a lot of coordination, particularly with the number of consultants we have, the affordable housing consultant, our planning consultant, the financial advisor, and all of these, just kind of coordinating all those contracts and providing coordination of those issues. This year is the year of our labor contract. We have 2 labor contracts that are coming up, will expire at the end of this year. Those contracts are ASME, those are our public works employees. We're in the process of negotiating with them. I'll be briefing council probably, we'll have our meeting not this coming, probably in December, we'll have a closed session to kind of give council where we are in terms of negotiations. We also have the PVA contract expires this year, which is the biggest contract of our unions. We're currently working with the PVA, with the chief, on some of the non-financial issues, kind of contract language and just kind of housekeeping work. Then we'll begin to look at kind of the financial piece of that. One of the things which has been surprising to me, and council should be aware, I'm drawing a blank on this. This year will be the expiration of the arbitration cap, the 2% cap. I've been watching, there's been a cap for the police departments and the fire departments in arbitration, which says you can only do 2% a year in terms of an award by an arbitrator. That cap expired. We're now negotiating our first contract without that cap.
Who would police the cap?
State.
State.
It's like the school.
Yeah,
tax
okay.
cap as
So
well.
school cap.
And what's interesting, I've been watching PERC, who is the agency that does the arbitration. We haven't seen the big jumps that we were seeing before, where there were contracts at 3-4%. They're still coming in. They're coming in above 2, but not much above 2. That is a good sign, so I don't see a return to the old days. It does seem like we're still holding on to some of the kind of where we were before, is hovering around the 2%. So we'll brief council when we get there. In addition to that, we're working with the GPS implementation. That will go into 2020. One of the things in terms of the budget we should be looking at is really we're at the point where we're going to look at needing personnel to really coordinate moving a program forward.
GIS, not GPS. There's so many acronyms. I mean, so many initials.
That one I was able to.
All right. In addition to that, we were working with the food waste program and managing the digester donation. We're currently working on putting the digester out for an auction. We're going through that process. We'll be getting that. In addition, we have the corrective actions for the landfill portion of it. This is going to be a big project in 2020 in terms of capital. Just to kind of give council an overview, currently on the landfill, there are some issues with the drainage along the landfill. What's happening is the water is draining across the landfill, and what that is doing is uncovering some of the, creating erosion, which could eventually uncover some of the garbage which is underneath. There is a drain, which is really interesting. There's a drainage swell that goes right through the middle of the landfill. Unfortunately, it's not working at this point. We're going to have to, we now have T&M doing a project to redesign that drainage swale that will allow for the water to drain through that swale and therefore mitigating some of the erosion that are currently happening.
Just assuming that it's a complicating factor that the solar field is also on the landfill, so you can't freely work to repair the drainage system and stuff. It's got
It's complicated, but it's not. It does complicate it a bit, but quite frankly, where it is and where we designed the solar field, the area where the drainage swale is, there is room there. It will complicate it, but it's situated in a point where we can actually get in and do the work. That will be a capital project. I'm estimating, and I don't have a full estimate, of about $300,000 to complete that project. We'll have that in. The schedule for kind of doing that project would be this spring, so we'll have to put that in our capital budget for this year. In addition to that, we talked about the PVA, there's the PFARS property evaluation, and there was a committee. We'll be meeting to evaluate that property for the PFARS. Then the other project is transferring the senior nutrition program from the senior center to the Chestnut Street Firehouse. We are at the point where believe we're shooting for getting something done by
Before Thanksgiving.
Before Thanksgiving. So that's
Will there
kind
be
of
any
moving forward.
kind of official opening, or we're just gonna?
Possibly a soft opening, but transportation is going to be a big issue too. So we started working with Greater Mercer, TMA, PSRC, to try to make sure we're able to get everybody over there, because formerly everybody would just go right to PSRC and hang out. So we're going to have to work out scheduling back and forth.
Because the freebie goes to PSRC, but doesn't go.
Right now,
We're
It
gonna have
does,
to make
it
it
does go down Nassau Street.
yeah, in terms of Chestnut and the route back and forth
How far
specifically.
away is that?
And the
So you have to
timing,
go around
the timing
the
for
whole
lunch,
loop.
and if they want to,
Yeah.
the program's gonna have to work
So,
that.
but back to your point, yeah, we'll work something out in terms of something that would be settled.
The other issues major issues in 2020 is River Road remediation. I gave council at the last meeting kind of an update of where we are. Moving forward, the big issue now is waiting for DEP to give us direction, so we'll know what remediation actions that we'll have to take. In addition to that, one of the things that I want to see expanded, one of the things that's been very successful over the last year and a half, we've been working providing employees with coaching services, and there have been two areas that we've used. It's been very successful, and the employees have really found it valuable. One is a coaching service where we've had training for our inspectors, and what the coaches attempts to do is provide them with skills dealing with different personalities as they go out and deal with people, and it's been very good for those employees. They've really been able to take some tools out and help them kind of manage dealing with different people. So I want to expand that part of the coaching, and then we have individual coaching as we identify future leaders, just providing them, services to provide them a place to talk about where they have challenges in dealing with their employees. And it's been very successful, and I want to expand that program moving into next year. In addition, there are two other issues. One is the Lawrence Township Convenience Center. We recently did an interlocal with them for the leaf and brush facility that we have there. One of the problems that we're having is the brush. Both Lawrenceville and Princeton, we're collecting so much brush, and that mulch, once we create the mulch, it's just not moving off the lot. And the lot's becoming filled based on the brush. The leaves tend to go out, everyone loves the compost from the leaves, but it's the brush that's a problem. People who want mulch really don't want they want the colored mulch, they don't want the mulch that we're producing. So we're working with Lawrenceville. One of the things that we may be able to do, we'll try to work with them, is they have a very good contract with Britain, and it may be that we use those services to help divert some of that brush from the convenience center to Britain, and we may change the interlocal in that area. And then the other thing that we're looking at, one of the things we want to explore moving into next year is looking at all the alternatives for refuse collection, one of those being the potential for interlocal with Lawrenceville for garbage collection. So mostly exploratory. We'll just be exploring to see if that makes sense in terms of that area. And then the other thing is just really supporting the other thing that's been very successful with the employees of the MVP program. Really just continue to support those initiatives. One thing that will be coming before council is a proposal changing some of our policies and personnel policies and procedures to provide a sick leave bank as they have promoted, so we'll be bringing that forward to council.
And Mr. Duffy?
Two things. One, regarding the mulch at the shared facility, I would think one thing that might be helpful would be to have some educational campaign with Sustainable Princeton to help our residents understand that colored mulches are not, environmentally great. And, there may be a lot of people who are sustainable minded who don't really think about the issue but would use the mulch if they do. And the other thing, I don't know if this question belongs here, but can you give us an update on the search for a new director of public works?
Sure. We've actually just finished the job description and what we're doing is we're actually revamping the job description. It will be the new title is the Director of Infrastructure and Operations, and it really will focus in on maintenance of the facilities and public works. That has been completed, that will go out on the street this week. We expect to have someone in a process will probably be about 30 to 45 days for a process. So we expect to get someone in early in the new year.
But you were gonna send the draft to the
Yeah,
Personnel
president.
committee.
Right. So just to, I was gonna ask that same question, so, I have two other questions as well, but, so for infrastructure and operations, so we're keeping the structure the same, so we are, what, can you explain
Sure,
the difference
absolutely.
between what Bob Huff did and what this new person will do, and what the supervisory structure will do, and any changes in
All right, and I should have backed up when you started there. One of the changes that we're making, the sewer operating component of Public Works will be transferred over to engineering. And that's mostly for the design of our design and construction and improvements to the sewer will be coordinated through engineering now. And what the idea is to put all of the kind of the design work under engineering and have Public Works do what they do best, which is maintain our infrastructure. So that will move over into, we have a sewer engineer, which was in this year's budget to really concentrate on doing our I&I, to try to infiltration of the water into our sewer system. And that's to reduce our costs for
That's
sewer
what
operations.
in reference to David Goldberg was talking
Correct.
about, that we were losing, okay.
So that will go over to engineering, and they'll be responsible for doing all of the work in terms of that. In addition to that, we will then have, so all of the new sewer, any improvements will be coordinated through engineering. Under Public Works, the only component that will still be there is kind of day-to-day operations of things like our pump station, and then maintaining our pump station, cleaning out the sewers will still continue to be done under Public Works. So what you'll have under Public Works is now the Public Works Department and parking. Well, most of sewer will be over in engineering, so that'll be the difference in the two departments.
Okay, otherwise the position is the same,
Correct.
and that person reports directly to you.
Correct.
And sewer tradition, I'm sorry.
No, go on, this is,
Again.
I'm
Sorry,
segueing to a new topic, so please speak
No,
up
I-
on this.
That was the model previously in one of the municipalities where SOC was a report to engineering, correct?
In the farm township.
Okay, great.
So I had two more.
You go ahead.
Okay, two more questions. Just a follow-up, because I'm new to the hiring process, and then the two other questions. Does all of council get to meet with the candidates for this position, or this is only
No.
just personnel? Okay.
But we're not.
No, and actually
either.
what happens in most cases when it's a direct hire that I'm responsible
You
for,
make.
I'll make the hiring decisions. What I'll do a lot of times when it's key positions, we may set something up for either personnel and sometimes other positions where we'll bring them in and have them meet with you as part of my process of determining.
Yeah, I would love to
yeah.
have some
Yeah.
council input into the process. So, two more questions. One is, one of the things I hope to bring up as a council goal for next year is to reconsider the entire waste stream and what we're doing with that. So a lot of your concerns about where we are with, the facility in Lawrenceville, and if we're moving on, I think really would be, a great match with this, because this is a big project of DPW. It's a very expensive part of what we do, and how can we kind of reconceptualize, if possible, everything that we do in terms of getting rid of our, trash, whether it's, recycling or, and I know we're not responsible for recycling, but still, recycling, potentially compost, and so, anyway, I think since things are in flux, this is, maybe a good opportunity to.
And one of the things Public Works has already identified is to take the next year and to do some analysis, particularly of our, the refuse collection and what are all the alternatives, so that
Right.
fits right in.
Great. And I'd like to see, again, I don't know if this is possible, but to consider the possibility that for larger properties, we simply don't do leaf and brush pickup. It just to have, I know this is the third rail, to have trucks go up to the ridge and pick up up from 4-acre properties like leaf and brush when they could just be disposed of on site. Maybe this becomes a fee for service or something. I know, but I love to see all those things discussed. And my last question relates to the website redesign or relaunch. Is there any group of citizens involved in this? Is this purely an internal process? Because since I've been on council, I've just so many complaints about how the website is organized and designed and how difficult people find it to use. And we have a lot of experts in the community. I'm not saying there aren't experts on staff, but I'd love to see, before we put all our eggs in one basket and launch with something, to make sure that we have, and maybe
That's more of a council, I think that's more of a
Okay.
council than an administrative
Okay.
decision, yeah. But we have a website group that will probably reconstitute with different people
Okay,
because it's.
excellent.
I just want to be clear, and this is, we're still under contract, and this is probably more a refresh than a relaunch. And the other thing, and I know we did when we initially did it, we did a lot of kind of just putting information out with the seamless docs in terms of trying to get input from the public. They're the users of the website, so we do want that input as we kind of make our decision about any changes.
Yeah. So just a couple of quick questions. One, it may have come up before, but I don't think that there's a definitive answer. For BCCs, some of them are not connected to a department, so they don't have a budget for incidentals, including Civil Rights Commission. There's a training that's going to take place on Friday. We were fortunate that we could partner with Human Services, who has funds in their budget to provide the refreshments. But then there are others. For example, last night I had our Youth Advisory Committee met. And Liz, you have forwarded, there was a film screening opportunity for Rice. Looks very interesting. It's on student empowerment. It was a motivational film. Our chair connected with the individual that had sent this to us, and it sounds wonderful. We looked at the trailer, but there's a $350 screening fee. And I did connect them with Garden Theater. I don't know whether they would cover that, but when things like this come up, including for the new members, they want to get T-shirts. In the past, they paid for it themselves, but I wonder whether there could be funds available for some things.
In a lot of cases, small things like that, very small projects for BCCs, there is money in administration, and it's a matter of just kind of talking it through what you're requesting, and whether it's something that we have.
But could there be like an official process, like?
I think it's better to go through administration, and actually I think we need to clean it up. Because I think the Environmental Commission has a budget, and it's always a problem, because I think there's a misunderstanding of what it means to have a budget. So I remember like when I was on the commission, there was like, oh my gosh, we have $500 or $600 in our budget, we haven't spent it yet. Let's make sure we spend it before the end of the year.
They've totally changed.
Right, no, I know, but I think
we haven't spent any of our money, but that's fine.
I think you should be careful.
You should
I
be
agree.
careful. I think it's like to have this money where there's no process really, I think is
And
problematic.
that's what I'm asking for, is
Yeah.
a process.
But I think the process is,
there like a form or something they can submit?
If we could create something, if you like, so to meet
That's
more
okay.
formally instead
Yeah.
of what the process, we can do
Yes.
that would be helpful.
Yes, a follow-up question, and this may be for council. Youth Advisory asked whether they can fundraise, whether they're allowed to fundraise. And
This has come up on bicycle.
yeah.
But I suggested, because one thing we have a couple of very talented musicians, including vocalists, that they said, can we play music on the street to fundraise? And I wasn't sure about that, but I did mention that these holidays coming up, that we are going to set something up, and I invite them to do that, if there's a process for that.
I would
But
have
not
to-
necessarily to fundraise,
Yeah.
but just.
Just in terms of fundraising, my concerns go up because once you're fundraising, if they're fundraising, they become public funds and we have to treat them like public funds. And then I'm not sure whether because I know then people are gonna wanna use them for certain purposes, but it's going to be limited on
Yeah,
how
and-
they can use
yeah.
them, and I'm not even sure if we can segregate them, so it's
Right.
something we'd have to
Because,
investigate.
let me give you an example, under Human Services, there's Central Package fundraisers now, they just formed their 501c3 and they're going to be having a Friends of Center.
That's the thing, like, I'm pretty positive that as a municipal government, we're prohibited from fundraising. That's why you have the rec department set up there, the corner house, the library,
Right.
and I think that's the way to do it. And I don't
But
know.
can you do that?
But you have to set up a separate
Yes.
Separate entity
entity.
that actually does the.
And I don't know if we wanna have, maybe it's something where we set up something more general that is like a bucket for, I don't know, it just seems like,
I just,
Is there an arrangement you do through the community foundation?
right,
well, you know, the bike committee had this issue this year because we wanted to get these portable bike, event bike racks. And the way we ended up resolving it was approaching Sustainable Princeton, which does have the ability to fundraise, and they were willing to sort of take it on as a project of theirs. So I could imagine something similar for youth advisory to work with the Y.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
suggested that too, so.
Yeah.
So rather than having to set up a whole bunch of little 501c3s, which is probably crazy, for little things like we're talking about here to go to existing 501c3s and sort of say, is this something we can interest you in? as a
But
customer?
supposing an administrative burden on them to set it up to get the money to.
exactly, no, I think
But
it
no, but
helps
there's-
incentivize
yeah.
partnerships too,
Right,
if you go.
I did suggest those, the Y or the theta, but sometimes like for the Civil Rights Commission, putting on this program and they want to offer some light refreshments, we were able to partner with Human Services, but I wasn't sure whether there would be funds available.
Well, let's create a form that can
Yes.
identify those types of things that.
I'll try to address this and be sort of vamping the BCC handbook, but I think sort of I think the encouragement should be for people to reach out to an existing nonprofit partner, and it's always better when we partner anyway.
Yeah.
Just two things real quick
Yeah.
to come out of what Councilwoman Fraga said. One, showing a film, always check with the library first. They have a
I did-
licensing
I did
agreement with
suggest the library
SWAC
too.
that they have public performance licenses. And two, something that Councilwoman Fraga touched on was this idea of busking. And I think as our downtown continues to be vibrant and we have a wonderful public space in Heinz Plaza, that we might need to look at some sort of busking arrangement.
It's happening this holiday season.
Yes.
I'm
So,
sorry.
I mean, I know it's happening this, I know that, but I mean,
What is that?
there are implications for residents and for
Right.
other organizations. The library, for
So
instance,
there's
has
going to be
faced people
six.
who have just set up an amp on Heinz Plaza, plugged it in, and started to wail, which would be great if you didn't
They
have
have
like a film.
I want to be respectful of
Yeah.
everybody's time because it's 10 of and we haven't gotten to the flip
Can I
phones yet.
ask just one quick one because it's related and it also came up recently. I was invited to go to it's a seniors, not a senior center, but it's where Tommy is right now.
Assisted living?
Assisted living.
Or rehab.
But I learned a new term, not handicapped, not disabled, it's differently able. So they have differently able residents there who have read about all our programs and community building events, but they have no transportation to come to them. And I don't know if they were asking about whether the freebie can go there.
Well, there's
a lot of
Crosstown.
There's
A
county
lot of
programs.
county programs.
Lots of
Yeah.
county programs.
They apparently, they were,
But we can talk offline and make sure
Yeah.
that we get them the resources.
Plenty of county programs, I think.
I just have one comment and then we can have the final one. So, in terms of Access Princeton, I think we've been talking a lot about like our communications and, I think there's like a large volume of calls that go in there, but I think it might be an area where we might want to dedicate some additional resources to bump up the staffing there. I know there's been sort of like informal conversations among council where I think there's interest in that. there.
Yeah.
What I want to say is really for the benefit of the new council members, also the newer ones on the council. I found it really helpful to have an org chart, and of all the employees, and I wonder if maybe for the first of the year you could have that. It's really, really helpful to have an org
Listing
chart,
everybody.
even and the names and everything.
And I had actually asked, I was gonna say, I had asked the same of, to include our police department.
Yes.
That would be very helpful if you did.
Yeah, I keep threatening, because you know how our faces, our mugshots are up there? To have Dolores featured up there.
Clerk.
She would enhance.
Yeah, there you go.
Saving the best for last. So everyone, this is Dawn, our deputy, this is for the new. The clerk's office is very busy. And you know that we're secretary to the governing body, and we prepare the agendas and trying to keep up on the minutes, which is very hard with all the meetings that has taken place. And you know, we're assisting with the elections. With Mercer County, they're putting a lot on the municipalities around in the Mercer County. For the primary election, they charged us in 2018 $11,000. But for the primary this year, it went up to $17,000.
That's what we had to pay them.
That we pay them, yes. So it raised $6,000.
So for all the services that the county provides, they provide the services, tax us, and then also charge us,
Yes.
including for recycling and other things.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
Where's Andrew when you need him?
So, you know, so that is going to probably raise my budget for the election.
And do you know what the cost is for the general yet?
I didn't get anything yet. So
So can we raise that issue?
we have the municipal clerks of Mercer County has raised that issue, and the county says, well, this is what it is. So we're still trying to fight that with them because they're putting a lot of the burdens on the municipalities to do more work. To say, I'm not saying that they're not doing, but a lot is coming back on the municipalities. So we're trying to speak with the county. We do meet with them, and you know, for elections, prior to the elections and everything, but it's still when we get the bill, it's.
Is there state statute on this, on like what the county's responsibility is? It just seems odd to me that they're responsible for elections.
Yeah.
And it seems a little
It
bit
seems a
not
lot that
legal.
has been changing, yeah. We're fighting it, so,
Okay.
yeah. We're
Maybe we
definitely,
go to the state also.
Yeah,
to
we're
get
definitely
some
fighting
relief
it.
on this, alright.
and you know, in our 2019 goals, we were talking about upgrading our agenda software, which we are doing starting January 2020, which we're saving $2,220 for the new software, and it's supposed to be more friendlier, and we are going to have a kickoff to discuss with all the departments in a phone conference to discuss what we can do to make it better for everyone when they're searching for the agenda. If a particular item is easier to do, and then we will let council know before we do a trial run, which would be December 16th, just to see how it's working. So that's one of the goals that we're trying to get established right now. So we're getting all the departments that normally put things on the agenda, and we're going to do that November 12th. And then we'll get council involved after that. So if there's any questions or concerns that you may have for the agenda, then let us know. And then when it's time to speak to our new company, that you can put that out there to them.
Did you have a question?
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to suggest that maybe, I think the minutes are, it's really great, how you've been really keeping up with the minutes and they're really detailed. And I kind of feel like maybe for your sake, they could be streamlined and be shorter, but I don't know if the other council members might want to talk about this, but maybe it would be good to have like a little group of council members to talk about the minutes in particular.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, we just want to make sure that we're including everything that is being asked or decided.
Yeah, that's why I think
So, if we can stream it down, we do try to stream it down as much as possible.
Yeah.
But we don't want to take anything away from what you want to get
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the discussion right now about it, but I just know that it might be something.
That might actually create more work sometimes, because I just remember being keeper of records for my fraternity when they asked me to stream things down. First of all, I want to get everything included. I had to spend more time trying to make it shorter. So that you created more
Yeah.
work.
Well, like I said, you don't want to take anything
Yeah, I know.
away.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Right, you don't want to take anything
Sometimes it's
away
like
from
put it in
what
here and it's done.
is being said.
Right.
I mean, I don't want, if David
Yeah.
says this, and then, you know, I can't really.
Yeah, I didn't mean
think
to
about
start,
what-
I didn't mean to kick off a discussion about it.
No, but that's fine. If you want to talk about trying to stream it down, that's more helpful for us. So,
Remember,
but, you know, and, in regards to the code book, codifying all the ordinances in our code book, we are trying to, I was talking with Mark, I don't think we're gonna be ready to switch our provider right now, which is Coded Systems. I did contact Coded Systems to see if we can at least get a 6-month contract. If we don't, and she hasn't gotten back with me, right now, they charge us $21,000 a year for that, so, I will definitely try to contact her.
I just want to jump in. One of the issues we're waiting on is the actual consolidation of the land use code. And it kind of makes sense to not move to a new vendor until that's done, and looks like that's not going to get done until the spring of 2020.
The parking permit, I know that we have a task force. I did have to purchase the 2020 parking permits because I didn't know where we are, and we do have most people come in December to get their parking permits, and you know, for the year they charge us $3,704 for our monthly parking permits. So
Hopefully if we move into it, line that we are, if we move into a different system that we can recoup some of that,
maybe.
it's-
So that would be perfect, so. As far as, I know I was speaking to Mark about trying to, we have a lot of organizations that want to come in and use our meeting rooms, and we don't know if we should, because they're residents, and we feel, and Mark and I feel that they should be able to come and use, if it's the community room, if there's nothing going on, or the Monument Main, but we don't know if we should put a policy out to charge for different organizations to use. Based on if they're resident-based, Princeton resident, we feel that they shouldn't have to pay because they are, somehow they might be paying taxes. So that's something to look at, and that's something that we might bring back to council in regards to that.
I mean, just as a comment, having been the treasurer of the Democratic Club, you know, we've been renting space at Suzanne Patterson, which
Right.
is a municipal facility for decades, as far as I'm
Right,
concerned.
yeah, we have, yeah.
So.
And the library has a policy also, and it might be useful to sort of look at some of
Well,
these
we
other
have
ones.
that
Yeah,
policy,
yeah,
yes, so.
yeah.
But it is really hard for groups to pay sometimes, even $50 at the library kind of ends up being expensive.
Right.
If it's a small meeting, so
Right.
if it were up to me, I would say this building should be free for residents. I mean,
Well, one of the things we're trying to do is also deal with the issue of a lot of people want to then schedule out their monthly meetings.
Well, that,
And really to make sure that it's available.
yeah,
As much as possible for any group that wants it, so we're trying to build policy
Yeah.
resources.
Right, and there are some that want to use it on Saturdays, so, and the buildings are not open, you know, on Saturday, where they could come here, they would have to go through here, they would have to go through the police department, but then.
There's also gonna be the space at PFARs too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Space. Library has a mix of free and rental, depending upon the time and the number of people who use it.
And since we're probably going to the league in a couple of weeks, we were going to try to meet with, to see if there's any vendors there in regards to the digital archiving, to see, I don't know how much that is going to be at this moment, but that would maybe be something that we put in our budget for 2020.
oh, I have a suggestion about that too.
Okay.
Because I've gone to the IT conference, and there's
Okay.
a lot of vendors there, and I noticed, I mean, I think it's important to, when you're looking for things like that, to also do go on the Google,
Yes.
because just because they have vendors there, they might not, there might be a better one. I
Right.
noticed that it just seems like a lot of people knew each other, and I felt like a lot of decisions are sometimes made based on being familiar. Not that you would make that decision that way, but I know that, you know, that like the West Coast companies for stuff like that sometimes might be the most newest and easiest and best, but they might not be coming over to the East Coast conventions, so.
A couple of things. First, I just want to echo what was said about having the minutes turned around so quickly. It's in memory is not that great. So like seeing the minutes like within a couple of weeks or a month as opposed to like 3, it really makes a big difference. And I know that that's a tremendous amount of work. So thank you to everyone who's involved in that. It really is appreciated. And then I have 2 questions, and excuse me if I may go the first one. So a number of residents have talked to me about and I don't know if this is even your question, about moving to E-code so that everything, is that the right term, so that everything is really easily searchable, and many municipalities apparently do this, and we do not. And is that something?
That's what we're talking about.
That's what you're
That's
talking
the code
about.
book.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, great. And the other question I have is about Oprah, which I know is a really big burden on you. And so I have 2 questions about that. Do you have any vague idea about how much time that's taking? And is there some way, I think people don't always realize the cost implications of Oprah, and are there ways that we can make available through the website, through the new E-code, other ways for people to get this? So somebody comes in and they want to file an Oprah request. It's like, oh, all you have to do is go here and enter this term and you'll get that information. And if that doesn't work, please come back. Like, are we allowed to do that? Because it seems like so much money is spent on this when there could be easier ways for residents or other people to get this information directly. I don't know what we're allowed to do.
Well, you have to understand though, when a lot of people that come in that fill out an Oprah request, they're asking for documents from the building department,
Right.
the engineering department, the health department. So that's, when we send out the Oprah request to these different departments, and we have 7 business days to fill that, there are some people that they don't want you to say, oh, you can go on the website and look at this. They don't want that. And even though they're really, a lot of the people are not getting charged for the requests that, you know, the materials that they get, because they're asking for it to be returned email.
Right.
So email, there's no cost.
Right.
We can't charge them based on years ago that they were charging 5 cents for the first 10 pages, and then 25 cents, and then they went back to 10 cents or 5 cents. The state changed that, and it made it more difficult because individuals, when they put in an Oprah request, they're asking for 6, 7, maybe 10 years of documents. So
this is really an unfunded mandate, and anecdotally, it seems to be sort of like almost, I don't know if I'd say crushing burden, but it's really a burden. And again, if, maybe this is just a change that needs to be made at the state level to revise the law so that you can say to someone, you can get that information today by going here and looking.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't know if most of the stuff would be available publicly.
A lot of things that are the most burden in terms of Oprah are companies looking for, big amount of data from our building department.
Right.
A lot of the small things, people can get those stuff and they will get them online. Or it's things like, search, I want to know what emails went out. And there are other things that really create the most burden. I don't know that they can be on the website. But there are ways that we can move towards putting some of the other things in the building department on the website as we
But if
digitize.
somebody comes in for an Oprah request, are you allowed to say, oh, that's publicly available on the website?
No,
just
you're not.
No,
You're not allowed.
and you have to be careful with that, just like Dawn was saying, there's things that have to be redacted. So if it's on the computer and you tell them that they can go to this place to get it, well, there's gonna be addresses, telephone numbers, that have to be redacted.
No, but
So-
if it's already on the website, like if somebody says, I want a copy of the parking study.
Right.
You
It's on
can't
the-
say though to them, go to the website.
Right.
We have to send it to them,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
What
would
percentage
recommend-
of what you do, roughly? I mean,
Well,
is
we
it
have
like,
the logs, because you've seen what people ask.
yeah, but I don't know enough to know like how much of this they could get on their own. Like, is it like 5% of what you provide is stuff they can do on
But
their
just like the
own, or
mayor is saying,
95%?
we can't say they
Oh,
come
I
in and
know.
say they wanna fill out the
I know.
Oprah request,
But I'm
so-
just curious in terms of if we could get the state to change the law, like how much of it would
Do
be
you know how
stuff?
long
It's
it
not
is?
going to
Yeah.
others,
Yeah.
right? Here, Dania, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, in terms of the building department, I'm just hearing from a lot of other municipalities that the GIS system provides a mechanism for Oprah requests for a lot of people who are involved with building, and it cuts down dramatically on the amount of time. And that's one of the biggest benefits in moving towards that system. So, and we seem to be very, very behind in this respect. So I just wondering, I had that question where we're going with that, because I think it touches on that. And my other question, and I guess this is a sensitive topic, but where are we with the meetings? Why are we not able to do what the school board does, in which, and this is to the minutes issue, that it's immediately available on YouTube. With the school board,
What's available?
the meetings.
Oh, the
This
meeting.
isn't,
Video.
this isn't the minutes, it's
Oh.
the live streaming.
Live stream, but you don't minutes are, you don't necessarily even need the minutes if you have the live stream. You just go to where you want to see. It's you can pause, you can, it's a very,
That's, yeah,
Versus-
just to interrupt, that's less of the clerk's office and more of IT. So that was the prior meeting where we discussed this
Okay.
as part of IT.
all right,
And-
sorry, I
And
just,
we're working on it, and it's not easy. And I would just say, for Eve's benefit and the benefit of new members, the league conference has an Oprah session every year, and it's extremely helpful because it mostly updates, and then it's a Q&A with people who know more about Oprah than even Crystal Knapp. So
And
I
for
would
the record,
recommend.
although I don't think we've made up, this has really gotten out there, is that there was a large Oprah request that we are prevented from addressing immediately because we were told not to by the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office. The Mercer County Prosecutor's Office, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, said it's okay to release the data. So all that data has been released. And we had nothing to hide. It was just we have to make sure that we're listening to the law enforcement office that we report to. And just want to get out that has been released several weeks ago. Yeah.
So I have a question. It's actually IT related, but Mark or Dolores might be able to answer. Do we not have a portable projector?
I don't know. I don't know
So
the answer.
I'm asking because, so I know we have in our main room and most of our rooms here, you can plug in.
Yeah.
But, for the civil rights training,
We do.
the presenter has asked for a projector, but there's nothing in the main meeting.
Typically, that request can go through IT, so IT.
I did request IT and they said we don't have a projector.
Is that right? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. We're
But
still
we
working
do.
with it, yeah, we do
We do.
have them available, typically they get borrowed from IT. That's something we'll talk to them about.
Can we, because also, follow-up question on that, I will be presenting at the League of Municipalities, and I'm supposed to bring my own projector.
You got it.
So-
Yeah, we do have one available, and those requests can go through them, and I'll just make sure that they have.
Yeah, okay,
And do you need it for tomorrow, the other one?
for Friday. Is tomorrow Friday?
Yes.
Or tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll email you, I'll make sure you
Okay,
get it.
great, thank you.
No problem.
Anything else?
No, I mean, it's sort of like, I think we both want to make each other's lives easier.
Yes.
So, I think just the communication back and forth, and I'll be sort of talking to you offline too,
Okay.
just in terms of, starting fresh next year too, with, I think, just more instruction to the boards, committees, and commissions, because there's a whole lot that gets funneled to the clerk's
Yes.
office from them, and to have, if there's a way to use the seamless forms,
Yes.
or to sort of, have very formal process
Right.
about how to do that and what the expectations are. I think it'll help just you from going crazy, and then for the BCCs to be doing the right thing too.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other final comments? Mia, welcome and congratulations. We already acknowledged Michelle, but just congratulations on your victory, and we're looking forward to having you on the council in 2020. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
That you don't like,
I'm so
cute.
used to it. So I just have, but I just